Hello guys, and we're back. We are going to check on some recent results posted for the standard format MTGO League and MTGO Preliminary, and one somewhat recall of the deck archetype that I saw from the top finishers in one of the MTGO League events was this one. I call this one as the recall for the Mono Black Aggro deck, and this is by username Burnt Taco 77. So this list went 5-0 in the tournament, probably with a current top tier events. We see that the deck would not really go in a monocolor, but instead providing with the black green or the Esper versions. But happy to see that we have a new updated deck list for the Mono Black Aggro, or the just going well with just monocolors. And so we're going to check the list. We have 23 creatures, 7 instants, 25 lands, 2 planeswalkers, 3 sorcery with a duress, and 15 card sideboard, of course. And you can see as a quick preview how these good stuff cards would really go well. And we see that the new card, Caustic Bronco, has not been seeing gameplay in this deck. Of course, it was initially went popular in the black green or the Golgari mid-range decks, and there's also a version of the Orso Aggro or the Orso tokens. And now we go to take a look that it is also getting a spot here in the mono black version. So we have 4 copies of this in the deck. To recall that it can get you a semi-cardo effect, but you will only lose life equal to that card's mana value, though unless it is sub-build, you can then have your opponent lose life equal to that card's mana value. So in a way, we make sure that the curve of this deck would really turn well with a turn 2 Bronco and a turn 3 creature that can saddle it for this kind of build. And also, one of the notable cards that is being added in the main deck, which has become a sideboard before for some of the black green decks, are the 4 copies of your Hostile Investigator. So we have this one as one way to have your opponents discard a card, and whenever they discard a card, or one or more players, this will trigger this ability only once it's turned. But the important thing is that those clue tokens would really get you some card draws later on to make you sure that you're still provided with a good gas to get back or even get ahead in the gameplay. And for the other 2 drops here, let's check on. We have a Tenacious Underdog. So not only this become a good attacker early on, but it can be used to blitz from its graveyard using this ability. You pay 4, you pay 2 life, and then you can attack from your graveyard, and at the end of turn you will have this one sacrificed and you will draw a card in the process. So one way also to get you cards, and also providing a good late game threat in this build. And also we have Graveyard Trespasser. You can see here that it has popular in 4 copies again, unlike in some previous builds, because of its importance to exile cards from your opponent's graveyards. To take note, we have Temur Control as our main target for this ability, so you would need to exile their land or their fetch lands in order for them to not recycle their shenanigans via the Analyst or the monstrous, the Temur Rage sorcery. But anyhow, any other relevant cards or graveyard shenanigans would be answered by this one. At the same time, if you'd be able to exile creatures from your opponents or also from your own graveyard, you can have this one as an added damage with each opponent losing 1 life, and you will gain 1 life. So that is 4 copies in the deck. And then we have Kervik the Punisher. The same idea that you can have a good mid-range advantage by committing a crime. So with this crime, for example, you can have this exile. You will also trigger Kervik's ability that whenever you commit a crime, you will exile up to 1 target blocker from graveyard and then copy it. And make sure also that you can have a copy of those cards and casting them, and you will lose 2 life. But the important thing is that you can get a good card advantage, like recycling a spot removal, for example, to your opponent's creatures, and also creating token copies of those cards exiled by its ability. And the other good 3-drop, of course, is the 3 copies of Picture of the Schism. can provide the card advantage and board advantage at the same time by depending on the life totals of the situation. And aside from the 4-drop, of course, we have Shouldered Apocalypse as your main threat in the punishing opponents who get to card draws, and also gets you to gain life whenever you draw a card. And the top curve of this deck is probably the one copy of Outlaws' Deepest Betrayal, along gold the lifelink flying. At the same time, you get your opponents to discard a card, then those who can't, you will have to draw a card, and then if whenever they discard a land card, you will then create a token with a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. At the same time, when it dies, you will flip this one as a Temple with Dead, and you will only have this conditional way to transform it back if a player has one or more fewer cards in hand, and only at sorcery speed. Now, if you are spotting mobiles, we have a few variants of the cards, which are the usual lineup for these kinds of deck. So 2 cut downs, 1 bitter triumph for your Planeswalker answer, 3 copies of Go for the Throat, and a copy of Long Goodbye, which can also answer creatures of Planeswalkers with mana value 3 or less at no counterable speed. And the only sorcery in the main deck is of course Duress, which can also trigger Curve Wreck, and also at the same time you got a 1 mana answer to most of the non-creature cards or non-land cards from your opponents, like discarding their spot removals. Also, you can also discard their counter spells and their threat, or the Wandering Emperor, for example, at the earlier turns. And also you can need also to commit Planeswalker with Liliana of the Veil, which can of course have them discard a card for each player, and also have a target player sacrifice a creature, thereby also triggering Carvex ability. And at endgame, if you are able to get to -6, you can separate this ability of separating all permanents, target player controls, and then sacrificing the pile of their choice. And for the lands, we have 14 Swamp as a main mana source. Of course, we need only 1 color in this deck. We have some few utility cards in the form of Field of Ruin that can destroy manlands and other triumphs, for example, and the Cavern of Souls to make sure that your relevant creatures would not be countered. We have also a copy of Mirrex, which can produce tokens for mid-game and late-game matchups. These Paraction by tokens can also attack. And 2 copies of Takenuma to can return a creature or Planeswalker card from your graveyard, and also a copy of Sunken Citadel, wherein activation of your manans or your land sources would be 1 mana chip with this ability, in which you can add 2 mana to activate them. Now for the quick rundown of the sideboard, of course, discard effects are essential, and with added duress in the sideboard, along with somewhat a good shenanigans in the mid-range decks, are 2 copies of Religious Reverie. You can have them exile their top X cards of your Reverie face down, and then you can play those cards as long as they remain in exiled, and casting a spell is the way you may spend the mana as though if it were mana of any type to cast it. So in a way, you mentioned these decks would be the good target of these cards. Also, we have also added Liliana of the Veil for more of the control-ish matchups. We need to have them lesser in cards in hand to support also our Duress and the Hostile Investigators. And of course, the spot removals or mass removals are copies of Path to Peril to deal with the Boros tokens, additional countdown which also deal with the red-green or the mono-red matchups, and a copy of Rankle's Prank, which can also not only get you to sacrifice creatures, you can have also players lose 4 life and discard 2 cards. At any given scenario, it can be very beneficial to you depending on your setup. Now for the rest of the mid-range and control matchups, of course, we have copies of Outlaws. These are additional copies, and this is Command, which is more of a volatile sideboard for can also make use in the aggro. At the same time, the recursion of the creatures from your graveyard can also be useful for the mid-range and control matchups. But either way, this is a very let's say the versatile, not the volatile, versatile term to have in depending on the archetypes that you would need to board them against. And last but not the least are your copies, of course, of unlicensors, which can also be used for the shenanigans of the graveyard with Temur control. And also, if you would be able to face Reanimator decks, then also this would be your good sideboard against them. And also, you can have this help out your graveyard trespassers. And last but not the least, your mana value. It's 2.57 on the average, mostly in 2 and 3 mana category. And of course, we would need the color distribution is because we are just monocolors, and our tokens for these decks are your Bat token, Clue token, Pression by token, the Vampire token, and that's pretty much it for your additional cards you would need as you play this deck. And if you have already tested this against this, or you are piloting this one at the moment in MTG League or MTG Arena, you can just comment below what will be your probable update. If you can have a good discussion on this deck for our deck feature for today. But for now, let's wrap this up with an updated mono black aggro deck by Banteco. It went 5-0, so it's pretty much a very finite kind of deck list that can go undefeated in a certain MTGO event. We might see some more of this in your future gameplays. Just let me know in the comments below so we can have some discussion about it, and of course maybe update some of the card choices in this deck with the new strategies added from the newest set, Outlaws of Thunder Junction. So that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, notifications on, and see you guys on the next upload.